Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Wilfred, and in this video, we're going to take a look at if-else statements and ternary operators in JavaScript. We're going to learn how to use them, and along the way, we'll also look at some common mistakes you might make while using these statements. So, without further wasting your time, let's jump right in and let's see how to use if-else statements. Alright, so if-else statements are also known as conditional statements, and they basically allow us to control the flow of execution of our code. We can use them to run a certain part of our code based on some condition. So before we start using them, let's first of all take a look at the structure. We first of all type the if keyword followed by some parentheses, and within this parenthesis is the condition we are trying to look for. So we have our condition here, and then followed by the some curly braces, and then within this curly brace is the code we want to run. So let me just put code block like this. Is the code we want to run once this condition here is true. And mind you, this condition here has to be true for us to run this code here. Now we can just use this if-else statement like this, but then we also need the else block here. The else block basically runs if this condition here is not true. Otherwise, any other code that follows this block here, let me just put this here, like let's say console.log console.log next code. Let me just put next code here like this. So if we do something like this, yeah, when this condition here is not true, this code will simply run. But if we want to run a default code, that's when we bring in the else block here. So this else block will basically run, and then every other code following it will also run as well. All right, now that we've taken a look at the structure of the if-else block, let's make use of this condition here. I'll just use this condition to create a variable. So I'll call this condition and then run some operation here. I'll just say 3 is superior to 5, right? And then this is the condition we are going to check, right? So let me just console.log console.log true, and let's run another one here, console.log false, like this. Now let's take a look at the answer in the console. So we refresh our browser here, and now we can see that we are getting false. This is false because this code here is not true. And remember, I said this condition here has to be true for the code in the if block here to run. Now we can also see that the next line of code is also running. So the our if-else condition here, our if-else block here, does not control the flow of execution of our code outside the block. So it's within this block that the operation goes on. So this condition, okay, let's change this condition to the opposite one and run it again. I'll just comment out this one because this will always run no matter what happens here. So let's refresh our browser again. Now we can see that we are getting true. So this condition here is true. And to verify that, we can also console log the condition itself to see the value we are getting out of it. So let me console log the condition, save and refresh. Now we can see this boolean value here. This boolean value, you can tell the color is different from this one, which basically means that this is a boolean value, and this one is just the one we try to log into the console. All right, moving forward, we need to understand that the else block here is not always needed. We can actually omit the else block. If we remove the else block like this, let me clear the console, save and refresh. Now we can still see that our if code is being run just fine. And mind you, every other code after the if block would run regardless of what this condition is here. Whether the condition is true or false, this code here will run. When I refresh my browser now, we can see that this next code is being logged in the console. Now, there might be some cases where you would think this line of code here would replace the else block, but that's not what is happening here. So this one here is basically independent of the if block here. When we change this condition to be false, let me save. Let me change this to a superior sign and refresh my browser. We can see now that the condition is now false and the next code is still being run no matter what happens here. Now, in the case where the code block within our if block here is just a single line, we can omit, the brackets, the curly brackets here. Let me move this forward, this upwards. Let me save and refresh my browser. We can see that true is not being logged in the console because this condition here is still false. When we change this to to be false now, or to be true, sorry, and refresh my browser, we can see that true here, true from this if block here is being run. So you can just keep your if block with its code block on the same line like this, or when you have multiple line of code, you just need to use the curly brackets. And you cannot have like multiple statements here. Let's say you cannot have another console log like this. Let me copy this console log here like this on the same line. This will introduce a bug. When we refresh, you can see that it's saying the uncut syntax error, unexpected identifier in the console. So for this to work, you simply need to use the the curly brackets around it like this and save. When we refresh, let me just move this downwards. So when we save and refresh, now this is working just fine. Now, with what we've learned so far, we can start looking at some practical use cases of this if else block or this conditional statement. And to do that, I will simply write some code or some some basic instructions here for us to use and to practice what we've learned so far. So I'll pause this video and come back later. All right, welcome back. On our screen here, I have this simple grading system written out, and we have this grade that we will use to, this grade variable that will be changing from time to time to tell if the person is of first class, second class, or has failed their exam. So to do that, you can try it yourself, and we'll first of all check whether this person is of first class. So we type the if keyword followed by the parentheses and then put in the condition here. So we'll say if the grade is superior or equal to 70, right? So for you to be of first class, you need to have 70 and above. So if you have a grade that is superior or equal to 70, then you can console log first class. So when we save and refresh, we see that first class is being logged to the console, which is the answer we expected. Now, we also need a default condition to fall back on, or a default result to fall back on. So we'll simply change this one to failed. Let's just put failed here like this. When we save and refresh, now we can see that we still get the first class, but when we change this one here to like, let's say 65, save and refresh, it tells us that the person is failed. Okay, so this is a bug, given that our condition here says that if the grade is within 40 and 69, within that range, the person is of second class. We did actually write the code to tell if the person is of second class or not. So to do that, that's where we introduce our else if block here. So we say else if the grade is, so the grade has to be within this range, right? So 40 to 69 is less or equal to 69, then we can log in the console second class. Let me just copy this to save time. So let's say this is second class here. Second class. Save and refresh. Now we can see that we've solved this issue. Now we are getting second class in the console. But how about when this condition is now, this grade is now 5? When we refresh, it still tells us that it is of second class, which is not fair, because this 5 here is within the range of 0 and 39, so we are supposed to get failed. Now I would like you to try and solve this yourself to see whether you get the answer. If you don't get it right, you can still continue watching this video afterwards, but try and solve this issue. Now to solve this, we simply need to make a compound comparison here. So we need to properly set the range here. So to do that, we simply say if the grade here is superior or equal to 40 as well, so superior or equal to 40, and so we introduce the AND operator, which is the logical AND. You can check one of my previous videos on operators, or the previous video on logical operator here, to see how this is done. So this AND operator here, it will check if the condition, if one of these conditions here is false, it will simply ignore the rest, right? So but if both of them is true, then it will just log in the answer in the console. So when we refresh our browser now, let's save. I did not save and refresh. Now we can see that the person has actually failed. So if we have something within the range of, let's say 44, for instance, let's take the grade to 44 and refresh. We can see that our student is of second class. All right, so moving forward, we need to understand that the if else block is not the only way to make conditional comparison in JavaScript. We also have something introduced to us called the ternary operator. So in this case, we basically assign directly the value we want to return from our operation to a variable. So let me just dive in and show you how that is done. So let's say we want to check if the person is of first class or not first class. So we just create a variable called result here, and then use the ternary operator. So to use the ternary operator, you first of all put the condition. So we say grade is superior or equal to 70, and then followed by a question mark. Now after this question mark, you put the results that you want to show if this condition here is true, right? So once this is true, this value here will be assigned to the result variable. So let's say this will be first class, like this, sorry, first class, and then after this one you put a colon. Now this colon here, behind the colon, is the condition, or is the value when this condition here is false. So I'll just put not first class, like this, not first class, okay, like this. Now when we save and refresh our browser, we will not see anything right now because we've not actually looked at the results here. So to see the answer of our operation, we simply log the result itself. So we do console.log result in the browser. So when we refresh now, we can now see that it is giving us not first class, which is what this if block would have given us. But in this case, this is shorter, right? Now, if this condition here was, let me change this to 74 and refresh, it is showing us that it is first class. But there is something you need to know about this ternary operator. You cannot have multiple lines of of operation here. So you cannot have something like this, put in the semicolon and then do some other thing, like let's say 7 plus 5 here, another operation like this will give you an error. So you simply assign a single value to your variable. All right, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section if you need help with anything at all. All right, see you in the next one.